bedroom with a boy I barely knew. He locked the door and walked towards me. There was no other way out. I was trapped. I realized that my cell phone was in my bag downstairs and that no one knew where I was, or even who I was with. I was in big, big trouble. It wasn't like me to get into situations like this. I have always been so sensible, but the events of the weeks leading up to this moment had led to me making a bad decision. I'm Amelia, and I'm 14 years old. I live with my older sister Leela and our mom and dad. My life was pretty normal until one odd day my mom started acting in a really strange way. It began with one evening when she sat me down and had a talk with me about responsibility and how I shouldn't let any boy touch my body. I told her there was no way that I would. I didn't even like boys. And besides, I've never even been in a relationship. She told me she believed me, but I had to accept a new rule in the house. She wanted me to take regular pregnancy tests. What a weird thing to ask. I laughed at first. I knew I wasn't pregnant as it wasn't possible, but my mom seemed like she didn't believe me. In the end, arguing with her seemed hopeless. So I went to the bathroom and took the test. I thought if it reassured my mom, then I might as well do it. The test was negative, of course. My mom looked so relieved, which was kind of insulting. She could have just trusted me when I told her, but things didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, though, Mom started to act weirder. I was forced to start taking a pregnancy test once a week. On top of that, I had to tell her who I was hanging out with every time I go out, and she would even ask me to put them on the phone to verify. Soon, she wouldn't let me go around friends' houses if they lived with brothers or even if they had dads. Mom would insist I came home instead and stayed by myself in my room and studied. Then she insisted on me taking another pregnancy test, then another, then another. Soon I was having to do them every day. I couldn't believe it. My mom had gone from being the closest mom ever to a control freak. One day, I came home and Mom had some glass tubes and packets on the table. They were the equipment for a drug test. She announced that she wanted me to take a drug test as well to make sure that I wasn't taking anything. She said that I would have to do them at random times whenever she asked. Couldn't believe it. I would never try drugs. I told her no at first, but she just moaned at me about how she knew best and how she just wanted to protect me. In the end, I gave up fighting and took the test. But I felt so depressed. Even my body wasn't my own. Now, you might not believe it, but it actually got even worse than this. Soon after, my mom forbade me from seeing any friends after school. Instead, Dad would be picking me up every day from school and driving me home. I was so miserable. On top of that, he was going to drop me off every morning. I wasn't even trusted to walk myself to school. As I wasn't allowed to go out, I started losing more and more friends. At lunch and breaks, I felt so isolated. It felt like no one wanted to talk to me anymore. When I tried to join in conversations, people would talk about what happened out of school or what films they had seen, or other things that I couldn't join in with as I wasn't allowed to have a life. And the worst thing about it was that I didn't even know why I was being treated like this. My evenings were so depressing too. I never had anyone to talk to. My parents even took away my phone every night when I got home from school. They told me it was a distraction I didn't need, and that I should use my evenings to concentrate on my homework. Until one day, I noticed something very weird. I was coming back from school sooner than usual, and when I entered the house, Mom called me and told me to check if she had turned off the oven. I didn't really pay attention to it at first, but when she came home, she asked me why I finished school early. How did she know? I started suspecting that my parents were actually tracking me. The next day, I decided to test out my theory and took a different path home, and my suspicions were confirmed. My phone started buzzing with messages asking me where I was. But how were they tracking me? The next day, I asked Blake, a guy I know from school, if he had any idea how my parents could track me. Blake asked me to hand him my phone. He checked it, and he looked at me with a smirk. "You got a tracking GPS hidden app on your phone." Oh my God, I freaked out. "Well, delete it," I told Blake, but Blake wouldn't. He started asking me all sorts of questions about the reason my parents were acting like this. I felt like I could tell him what was happening because he was smart and funny, and kinda cute too. He was so different from any other boy at my school. I confessed to Blake about my crazy parents, and he found it funny. He couldn't believe that I put up with them. He told me that I shouldn't delete the app, and that I should use this app for my advantage. He said that all I'd have to do was turn off my phone when I leave school, and it will get them to believe I'm still there. He then convinced me that I needed to go and have fun, whether they allowed me to or not. He messaged me an hour later and told me to meet him outside school. He wouldn't tell me why, but I was excited. I ran outside and found Blake. He told me that we were going to cut school that day. I was shocked. I had never skipped school before, but he told me that I needed to live a little and go for it. I remembered the advice he gave me, and I turned off my phone. He grabbed my hand and we ran off the school grounds. Holding his hand made me feel nervous and excited. I mostly got excited because I felt like I was finally breaking free from my parents and crazy mother. But to tell you the truth, I wasn't sure about how I felt towards Blake. He took me back to his house. His parents were out, so we had the place to ourselves. He called up the school and pretended to be my dad and called in sick for me. Then, he got me to call and pretend that I was his mom. I felt exhilarated. I had never been with anyone who made me feel so free. We went up to his room and played computer games. It was weird, sitting on his bed next to him. I had never been alone with a boy before, but he was so relaxed. And soon, I was too. Then, when we stopped playing games, he leaned over and kissed me. I had never been kissed before, and it was so wonderful. But then, he didn't want to stop. He wanted to take things further. I suggested we go downstairs and watch TV, but he said he wanted to stay here. He got up and locked the door to his room. He leaned in towards me again. I tried to push him away from me, but he kept telling me how pretty I was and how much he liked kissing me. I started to panic. I was all by myself with a boy I barely knew, and no one even knew I was with him and where I was. Quickly, my hand reached my pocket where my phone was, and I turned it on, hoping that my parents would come to my rescue. Then, something happened that shocked me. I heard someone banging and shouting at the front door. I recognized the voice. It was my dad. He shouted that he knew I was inside and demanded that I come to the front door right away. Blake jumped away from me, and he looked really scared. I snatched the key, unlocked the door, ran out of the room and down the stairs. I grabbed my bag and ran out the front door straight into my dad's arms. He looked really angry for a second. Then, when he saw that I was upset, he hugged me back. We went and sat in his car, and I told him everything that had happened. Then he got angry again. He told me that I shouldn't have skipped school in the first place. He said that I put myself in a dangerous position as no one knew where I was. I told him that it was him and Mom's fault. If they hadn't been so controlling, that I would never have skipped school. I just felt like my whole life was so controlled that I had to sneak around to do anything fun. I said that I didn't even want a serious boyfriend yet. I knew I was too young. He nodded and looked sad. After the incident, my dad admitted that my mom was so worried about me that she had made him put a secret app on my phone to track my location so that they could keep an eye on me at all times. When he saw that I wasn't at school, he knew he had to find me. That night, I sat down with Mom and Dad. I told them that I knew about the secret app, and that's why I had acted out. I apologized and told them that I couldn't keep living like this. I was going to start hanging out with my friends again after school. I said it was unfair for me to not have a social life just because they were worried. I told them that I would not take any more pregnancy tests either. My mom suddenly teared up. I didn't understand what I did to make her cry. My father gave her a hug, and he told me there was something I should know. A while ago, we found out that your sister Leila is pregnant. Leila? I couldn't believe it. She's only 16. My dad continued. Leila had been feeling unwell for a few days and kept complaining that she felt sick. Your mom thought something was wrong and started paying extra attention to her. Then, she found a positive pregnancy test in the bin in the bathroom and sat us down and shouted at us until Leila admitted that it was hers. I couldn't believe that my sister had been so reckless to get pregnant, but things started to finally make sense. I guess my mother had a good explanation for her crazy behavior. My parents admitted that they freaked out because they felt like they didn't do a good job protecting us and that they were trying out a new method. I leaned closer to her and gave her a hug. I promised her that I won't repeat my sister's mistake and that when I was much older and had a boyfriend, then I would make sure that we only had safe sex. Mom was really quiet for ages, but then she apologized for not trusting me more. She promised me she would never force me to take another pregnancy test again. Have your parents ever done anything as weird as make you take a pregnancy test every single day?
I was sitting in the park with my best friend Paula when we heard a woman screaming, "Help! Help! My daughter has fallen into the river. She can't swim." I looked at my friend Paula. "We have to help her," I said, jumping up. I ran to where the woman was standing at the edge of the river. There in the water was a little girl about 3 years old. She was waving her arms in the air and crying. I could see she was starting to go under the water. Her mother was obviously in shock because she was just standing there doing nothing. I dived into the water and swam to the little girl. I grabbed hold of her just as she went under the water. "Put your arms around my neck and hold on tight to me," I told her. She put her tiny arms around my neck and I swam to the edge of the river with her on my back. When we reached the bank, her mother came and pulled her out. "Oh my God, you saved my daughter's life," she cried. "How can I ever repay you?" "Well, I do need a job if you have one," I said jokingly. "Actually, we do. It seems like you're really good with children and we need a nanny if you're interested." "I'm definitely interested. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Then you're sure to land a dream job like mine too." The first day I started my new job with Annie and Stephen Harris, I was so excited. Annie had seemed so nice that day in the park. She couldn't stop thanking me for saving Abigail from the river. Annie had sent me her address and told me to be there at 9 a.m. As I walked down the street toward Annie and Stephen's house, I thought about how my life had changed. One day I had nothing, no job, no prospects, and then the next I had a fabulous job and a really good salary. My friend Paula just needed to find a job and then everything would be perfect. I walked up the long driveway to Annie's house. The house was enormous. It was the biggest mansion I had ever seen. I rang the doorbell. A few seconds later, the door was opened by Annie, smiling. "Good morning, Becky," she said. Two cheeky faces were peeping out from behind her. One I recognized was Abigail. The other one was obviously her brother, Billy. "Hi, you two," I said and smiled at them both. "I'm Becky, and we're gonna have lots of fun together." We hit it off from the first day. The kids were adorable. I really couldn't believe how lucky I was. After work, I went to Paula's house. I told her all about my new job. "I can't believe how lucky I am," I said. "I have a job that I love doing, and the salary is amazing." "Yes, you are very lucky," said Paula. I looked forward to going to work every day. My bosses were both really kind to me, and the kids were so well behaved. It really didn't feel like work. They had a swimming pool in their garden, and on a hot day, the kids and I just spent all day around the pool. That was one of the first things Annie asked me to do. "We want you to teach Abigail and Billy how to swim," she said. As she said it, her face looked sad. I knew she was thinking back to the day that Abigail had fallen into the river. "Don't worry," I told her. "I will soon have them both swimming like professionals." The summer days went by in a flash. Soon it was September and the days were getting colder. I knew there wouldn't be any more swimming for a while. We began to spend our time inside the house playing hide and seek, painting, or playing board games. It was after a day of painting that things began to change. I had sat Abigail and Billy down in the kitchen with a glass of chocolate milk each, and told them to be good whilst I cleaned up all the paint things in the room. But when I went back into the kitchen, I couldn't believe what they had done. They had thrown their chocolate milk everywhere. It was dripping down the walls, and the carpet was covered in it. "What have you done?" I shouted at the kids. "Look what a mess you've made." They just stood there and laughed at me.
"Now you'll have to clean it up before Mummy sees it,"
said Abigail. "Yes, or you will be in big trouble," said Billy. I told them to go up to their rooms, and then I cleaned up the mess. I had no idea what had gotten into them. They had never misbehaved like that before. I hoped that it was a one-off, but sadly it wasn't. From that day on, things went from bad to worse. They did everything they could to make my life miserable. I couldn't understand what could have happened to make them treat me so badly. I decided that I would have to have a talk with them. The next morning, when Annie and Stephen had left to go to work, I sat the kids down in the lounge. "I need to talk to you two," I told them. "I want to know why you are being so naughty."
"Mummy told us to do it,"
said Abigail. "I'm sure Mommy wouldn't say that. Come on now, tell me the truth." "It is the truth," shouted Billy. "Mommy told us to be mean to you." Why would Annie do that? I thought to myself. The rest of the day passed by, and eventually Annie came home from work. When she came into the house, I went to speak to her. Excuse me, Annie," I said. "Can I speak to you about something, please?" I told Annie what the kids had told me, what she had said to them. I was expecting her to deny it, but she didn't. Instead, she turned on me. "Yes, it's true," she said. "But why would you want them to be mean to me?" "So you would quit your job." Then she said the most shocking thing to me. "I know you're having an affair with my husband." Of course I denied it. "You're wrong," I said. "We're not having an affair." Annie made me stay until Stephen got home from work. She told me that we would all sit down together and we would find out the truth. Stephen, of course, denied everything too. "I'm not having an affair with Becky," he said. "Why would you even think that?" Annie told us that she had noticed that every time it was my day off from work, Stephen was nowhere to be found. She said that when she tried to call him, his phone went straight to voicemail. I know you two have been meeting up on Becky's day off, she said. Stephen told her that she was imagining it. It took us a while, but we finally managed to convince Annie that we weren't having an affair. Annie left to go to the kitchen, and Stephen walked with me to the front door. Phew, that was close, he whispered to me. I thought she was definitely going to find out what we've been up to. I know, I said. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep it a secret for much longer. We have to, whispered Stephen. I can't let her find out now. It was the following Saturday when she did find out what we had been getting up to behind her back. Stephen had booked an afternoon at a spa for her to get pampered. We needed her out of the way so that we could have the house to ourselves. It was just after 6 o'clock when she walked into the lounge. Surprise, we said, jumping out from behind the couch. What's going on? She said. Then all her friends came out from where they had been hiding. Happy birthday, Annie, we all shouted. Stephen took Annie in his arms. This is what Becky and I have been doing on our day off, he said. We've been organizing your surprise birthday party. You know I love you. I would never cheat on you. Annie looked at me and smiled. I think I owe you an apology, Becky, she said. No need to apologize, I told her. Come on, you have a birthday cake to cut. After the party, things went back to normal at work. Annie told the kids not to be mean to me anymore, and they went back to being the cute, adorable kids that I had first met. Everything was fine for about a month, but then one morning I walked into Annie's bedroom and saw her standing there looking shocked. I can't believe I trusted you, she screamed at me. What are you talking about? I was right all along. You're having an affair with my husband. No, I'm not, I shouted. I found your underwear in Stephen's wardrobe. She showed me the underwear she was holding in her hand. See, it has your name on the label. She was right. It was my underwear, but I had no idea how it had gotten into Stephen's wardrobe. I told Annie that I knew nothing about it. Well, I have one way to prove it. You didn't know I installed CCTV in the house so that I could catch you out. Come on then, I'll watch it with you, I said confidently. Annie and I went downstairs to her office and she switched on the video player. We watched until eventually we saw a girl walking into Annie's bedroom. See? She said. That's you coming into my room. That's not me, I told her. We watched as the girl walked over to Stephen's wardrobe and put my underwear inside. As she turned to walk out of the room, the camera showed her face. I gasped as I realized who it was. I couldn't believe my eyes. That's Paula, I cried. She's my best friend. Annie looked at me in shock. I'm gonna confront her about this, I said. Annie told me that she would drive me to Paula's house. She wanted to get to the bottom of it too. We pulled up and got out of the car. I knocked on the door. A few seconds later, the door opened. Paula stood there and looked at us in surprise. Hi, Becky. Hi, Mrs. Harris, she said nervously. I asked Paula why she had put my underwear in Stephen's wardrobe. At first, she denied having anything to do with it, but when we told her that we had seen it on the CCTV, she admitted it. Okay, yes, it was me, she said. You got a fancy job with loads of money and I have nothing. You knew I was poor, but you never offered to help me. I never see you anymore. You're always working. I wanted to cause you problems with your job so that they would sack you and then we could spend our days together like we used to. Well, that has backfired on you, hasn't it? I shouted. You're no friend of mine now. I never want to see you again. Annie and I got back into the car and we drove to her house. I felt a little sad that I wasn't going to be seeing Paula anymore. After all, we had been friends for more than 10 years. When we pulled into the driveway, Stephen was just getting out of his car. He looked surprised to see us. Where have you two been? He asked us. Let's go into the kitchen and we will explain, said Annie. We told Stephen all about what Paula had done. He looked at me. You look upset, Becky, he said. I shrugged my shoulders. I guess I'm just going to miss my best friend, I said. Then Stephen surprised us both. I think you two should forgive Paula, he told us. I know what she did was wrong, but she only did it because she was missing you, Becky. I think she deserves a second chance. I think I have an idea. It turned out that Stephen had been telling his friends at work all about me. He had told them that I was perfect with the kids and they loved having me working for them. Stephen's friends had asked him to find a girl to work for them. I think we could offer the job to Paula, he said. Call her now and tell her. I didn't expect Paula to answer the call after the last thing I said to her, but it only rang for a couple of seconds and I heard her pick it up. I'm so sorry, Becky, she cried. Please forgive me. I just miss you so much and I'm struggling not having any money. I do forgive you, I said, and I have some even better news for you. I told Paula all about the job with Stephen's friends. She was so happy and of course she couldn't wait to start working for them. Finally, we both had our dream job and, more importantly, our friendship.